That's a big time of the day for me. The closing keynote is always a very special moment. So I hope you find this day very inspiring and you find what you need in it. We will have time to discuss just after this keynote about wrapping up everything and give you more information and doing the raffle so you can have good prices and so on. We still have a few venture certification versions to give away and more things around. But for now, please welcome the founders and leaders of Pepup Tech, and I think that we're going to start with the video that was diffused at Dreamforce. Thank you.
If I were to walk into the Louvre and it was the same picture over and over and over again, nobody would want to go there and see those paintings because this is the same damn picture.
Diversification gives you a higher yield on your return. You already know that. So why wouldn't you do the same within your organization?
We don't consider ourselves a charity. What we're doing is we're helping to uncover the opportunity that is there.
Pepup Tech goes out and finds all the different shades of color of people, and it brings them into the world of technology. And we give them access, and we introduce them to the people that we know.
The students that are in our programs are told no a lot in their life. So to come into our program and for us to accept them for who they are, it helps beyond what we can even imagine.
I grew up in really extreme poverty, a lot of crime, a lot of violence in that area.
I felt judged, I felt looked down upon.
A lot of people told me that I would amount to nothing.
For people who live in poverty, life and death is a balance every day.
When I grew up, I met so many smart, incredible individuals, but they were limited by resources. So for me, it always goes back to wanting more for people. Right? I said, okay, how can I find other people that are as motivated as me to build a nonprofit? And that year I went to Dreamforce. Dreamforce is a very special conference, right? Everyone there, they're thinking about innovation and growth and how to change the world. So not surprising that I met them at Dreamforce and established this friendship and then grew this organization under that friendship.
Being part of a consultancy was never something I would have considered before.
I started working with Able, so I sent Able to go meet Patrick.
We don't hire someone based on how they were born. We hire somebody based on how they think. And we build innovative applications on the Salesforce platform. Pepup Tech trains these students, and so this is why it's a great relationship, because they can come here using these tools that they just learned.
Using Trailhead is a great way to start writing your own code
and create really innovative products.
When you invest in people of color, you're opening your eyes to a whole different lens. You're widening your data set. Now you're getting some sort of different cadence.
In the tech industry, we're trying to solve big problems. We need diversity of thought. We can't just have one type of person in the room making decisions for the entire population.
We need to hire people that push us to think differently. And you can't get pushed to think differently if you hire all the same type of people.
A diamond is just a stone until that stone is unearthed. So what we try and do is we try and dig those diamonds out and polish them so people will take notice.
Anytime that you share the knowledge and your experiences, you're blazing a trail for others to follow you.
Trailblazers do that. Sometimes we'll look at the path and be like, I'm gonna cut through the grass. I'm gonna make my own path.
My students will say to me, you changed my life.
You changed my life. I mean, it makes me wake up and go, I want to do it again.
They helped me put myself out there and attain a job within the ecosystem.
So you have a job there?
Yeah.
To me, I think Pepup Tech doesn't just give you opportunities, it changes your life, and that's what it did for me. So.
Pepup Tech and Salesforce opened a whole new world for me.
Salesforce had this 1 million people employed moonshot, and we were like, we are going to meet that moonshot, and this is how we're going to do it.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Bonjour. So today's topic is for the keynote, Give Back, how our lives changed by giving back. And last night we were with John talking about today and what we would be talking about, and we think it's really important to share our stories. So several things that I'm really impacted about. One, I'm now part of this amazing organization, Pepup Tech. Sorry, guys. There we go. There's my picture. That's what I was looking for. So I am finally on board officially. So I'm the Director of Program and Partnerships for Pepup Tech. And the other thing that I'm super excited is that I'm actually here in Paris, all the way from New York. Last night we were talking with John, and I said to him, someone has to pinch me because I can't believe this. This is surreal. He actually pinched me, and I have the bruise to show everyone. So thank you so much, John, for the invitation, for this warm welcome. We're super duper excited, and you'll see the passion that we have as a team. So part of sharing our stories, I came to the United States when I was 7. I was raised by a single mother who didn't have much when we were in Colombia from South America. And when we migrated, not having so much in Colombia didn't really make a difference when we got to the States. But it really, takes a lot of effort, not knowing the language, having to learn the language. And let me tell you, as a child, because we absorb information quickly, within a year I was able to learn the language and became my mother's advocate. So I translated materials, I paid the bills for her, I translated with the teacher, right? So I got away with a lot. Just imagine when I had to go with her to doctor appointments, there were certain things that I did not want to translate. She sent me back to Colombia when I was 12 because it was really challenging as a single mom to raise me, having odd jobs. She cleaned houses, apartments, and leaving me alone as a preteen was really challenging. So she shipped me off to Colombia, where I went to school, a nun school. The priest was the director, and I was there for a little bit under 3 years. When I came back to the States, I was 16 and became pregnant, and you could see the picture here. My husband, myself, and the baby. The baby's now 23. She's actually here also today. And it wasn't until when I was expecting her that I met my first mentor. She was an educator at the high school where I attended, and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And she said to me, you're going to go to college and you're going to obtain an education because you have to have the skills and the tools to have a better life for yourself, for your child, your family, your community. And that sparked something in me. So I did exactly what she said. I finished high school at night. I worked during the day, and I went to college. I have an undergraduate degree in business, and that's where I met our founder, Selena Suarez. We actually attended college together, and that's where our story really started. So most recently, after working in higher education and admissions, local and also international, recruiting students from South America, Brazil, Ecuador, and Colombia, I then ventured into the nonprofit world where Selena had ventured out first, fell in love with the idea of giving back, making anyone else's life better, fell in love also with single-sex education, so I focused on supporting girls and women become the better version of themselves, and I founded a nonprofit organization, WEI, Women's Empowerment Institute, where we empower girls, and you can see the picture up there. And, oh, I don't know what happened to these slides. Not that techie at a Salesforce convention. The back picture is of the women of the group, and most recently joining the team of Pepup Tech. And the photo that's actually right behind the girls is 3 years ago when we took the first group to Dreamforce in San Francisco. These were newly graduates of the program of the virtual academy that we offer, and I was a chaperone. And of course, just understanding the importance of having someone champion you and support you and root you on and pave the path for you just really makes it much more meaningful, and I just felt the obligation. I felt that it was my role too to empower others, and you could see through the work that I've done. I came along this quote that I thought was really nice. So, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So I encourage everyone here to think of others. We were talking about Salesforce Saturdays earlier, if you did our session. And it's important to build that community. There's no greater satisfaction than giving back. And we can do it all. We have these conversations amongst women all the time, and we constantly struggle with, can we be a mother? Can we be a wife? Can we be an effective, full-time worker, have a career? And yes, we can. I run my own nonprofit. I also work full-time with Pepup Tech, which is a mission that I'm extremely passionate about, and I'm raising 4 kids, and I still have time for my husband. So we can all do it, and I encourage all of you. And I encourage all of you to do the same. So now I'm extremely proud to welcome our dear founder of Pepup Tech, also a dear friend of mine and one of my biggest supporters and mentors, Selena Suarez.
Thank you, guys. It's really a true privilege and an honor to be here and to get invited to come here. I spent a large part of my life living in the inner city in New York City, and I probably would have never thought that I would have had the opportunity to come and speak to a group like this and talk to you about my past. I grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York. Many of you know it as the home of Biggie Smalls, but I grew up in New York City. And I grew up at a time where it was a really tough time in New York City for individuals who lived in the inner city areas. Back in 1986, there was an artist by the name of Keith Haring who climbed up on a ladder in a public playground in Harlem and painted this mural. He didn't have permission to do it, but he was trying to make a statement about what was going on in New York City at the time. There was an epidemic back then, referred to as the crack epidemic in New York City, that was affecting low-income and minorities communities at large. A lot of families were being torn apart, a lot of children ended up in foster care, and my family was sadly affected by that trend. So by the time I was 7 years old, that's me when I was 7, I was the primary caretaker and sole babysitter for my 7 siblings. My mom was dealing with a lot. I was taking care of my siblings. I was the person who would come home and cook for them, get them ready for school, and do things like that. And sometimes I look at this picture and it makes me emotional because I can't believe I was that little, and I had that level of responsibility. And here is a picture of my brothers and sisters. You see everyone, we're all together and we're smiling and happy, but that was our reality. And I just wanted to say a quick word about my mom. That's my mom. My mom has always been a really happy, a dancer. This is a picture of her at a party. She's 9 months pregnant, and she's listening to reggae music, and she's dancing, and that was her spirit. And the thing that I really wanted to say about her is she was a really interesting person. She would tell me things that probably she shouldn't have, because I was a little bit too young to understand some of those things, but she was super blunt and super honest, and I'm pretty blunt and honest, so I know I get that from her. And she was doing the best that she can with what she had, and I know that for sure, but one of the things that she did for me is she helped me to develop empathy at a really young age. And it's the reason why I'm able to do the things that I do, because I literally, I don't just look at people and feel sorry for them. I have an ability to transform myself into someone else and feel what they feel and understand what they understand. And it makes me, a good friend and a valuable person to speak with. A lot of people will come to me and feel very open about telling me things because I have that high level of empathy. And for many, many years, I struggled with my background. Why was it, why did this happen to me, and why did I grow up that way? And, when we went to foster care, there was 7 of us, so you know what happened. They split us up, and we got separated, and we're all in different homes. So I only saw my family for 1 hour once a month, and that was it, until we were released years later. And so it's very hard to be that young and to deal with that kind of disruption in your family unit. And for many years, I struggled with what it was like to, grow up like that. And I want to say, before I go into the next part of my presentation, is I'm not sharing a rags to riches story with you guys, right? I'm saying all these things that are kind of hard for me to say just because I want you to think about what that give back really means, right? What does it really mean when you give back, and how does somebody like me take, all of us deal with struggles and challenges in our lives, but how do you transform it? It has to be for something, right? There's no, why did I grow up this way and I had all these problems in my family life, right? It was to develop the empathy that I have in me today so that I can have the impact that I have in my community. If I didn't have those experiences, there'd be no way for me to make that connection today. So, I want to just say that. And then, go to the next slide. the same way with Gina, I wanted to take a second to talk about a woman named Madelene Taub-Chan. She was my teacher. When I came out of foster care, she was my teacher when my mom ended up getting us back and we all moved to Brooklyn, New York. We got an apartment and we thought everything was gonna be great. And I ended up going to a school that was a pretty decent school, and she was my 5th grade teacher. I looked her up a few years ago and she was like Woman of the Year, and I'm not surprised because at the time that I came out of foster care, I did not trust adults. I didn't have relationships with people because I assumed if I said something, they were gonna take us away and put us in foster care. So I was very quiet. For years, I wouldn't even speak, which no one believes now because you can't shut me up. But back then, I was so quiet. I was a mute. I didn't say words at all. And, she saw something in me, and she didn't give up on me. Like, she continued to push me and talk to me and encourage me and tell me that I was smart when I didn't believe it, and told me I was talented when I just knew that I wasn't. And one of the most important things that she did for me is she encouraged me to apply to a gifted and talented school in New York because she told me I was talented and I was going to go somewhere. And even though I didn't believe her, she was like, I don't care what you're doing on January 7th at 7 a.m., you need to show up at this school and take this exam. And I didn't know what that all meant, but I went. And I ended up being accepted, one of 2 kids in my school, to this gifted and talented school. And I only lasted there 1 year because I ended up back in foster care, but that 1 year was all that it took, right? The love and care that she showed me for 2 years, and the 1 year that I spent seeing how the other side lives, right? It changed my life. And I ended up becoming the first person in my family to get a high school diploma, and then I got an associate's, then I got my bachelor's, and then I ended up getting my MBA. And so it can be done, right? That one person who inspired this click of inspiration in me when I was just in the 5th grade changed my entire life. And I like to think that when I'm helping other people, I'm channeling Miss Taub and what she did for me. So by the time 2010 rolled around, I had already earned my MBA, I discovered Salesforce, right? I was working for a very well-known nonprofit in New York City. They were helping to change the dynamics of underrepresented students, international students, people coming from low-income backgrounds, helping them get to college and then succeed through college. So I was hired because I had a background in analytics, and they wanted me to help them figure out a tool to help them track those students so they can make better investments in their programs. And so I learned about Salesforce, taught myself Salesforce back in the days when it was Universal Computing and the videos and you bought Premier Support. That's how I learned Salesforce, the Force.com workbook before Trailhead. And I built an application from end to end. And to this day, there are hundreds of organizations across the US that still continue to use the app that I developed, and thousands of students have been helped to go to and through college. And one of the things that did for me is I thought, I'm somebody who didn't consider myself a computer scientist. I didn't go to school for computer science, but I developed an application that is changing the lives of students every single day, right? And how many other great ideas are out there? Where are the other change makers, right? The reason why, it's no mistake that I would create that particular product. I just told you my background, right? It makes sense that I would be inspired by that problem and want to solve it because I knew what it did for me. But what about everybody else in this room who has amazing ideas based on their experiences? This is why diversity is important, right? Because we need people to come up with ideas that maybe we won't think about. Maybe there's an idea that I wouldn't think about because I didn't grow up in Colombia. Maybe Gina has an example of something that would really help a family that's, trying to translate and come into this country and make their way in the United States. It's important for us to have diversity so we can unearth, uncover, and develop these applications and this potential that will make our lives better. So, I had the opportunity to do that, and I wanted to give back. And I said, hey, how can we take all the stuff that we learned, right? I was an accidental admin, like most people in the room. I just discovered Salesforce, and all of a sudden, years later, I'm heading into my 10th year now. I'm an expert at Salesforce. I build applications. I'm kind of a software developer now, right? I don't have a computer science background, but that's what I am by trade. And so we started this program, and we said, well, what are all the barriers that prevent students or people from breaking into the tech industry? And a lot of it has to do with, there's a lot of barriers that prevent people from joining the Salesforce ecosystem. The training is expensive, right? The certifications, $200, whatever it is, can be cost prohibitive. You might not live in an area where there's a user group or a Salesforce Saturday or able to make connections. There's a lot of different reasons. So with Pepup Tech, we started to knock down those barriers and create opportunities for students. So just like the slide says, we're giving motivated, underserved students access, skills, so that they can make it in the tech industry. We're cluing them into our network. Events like this are really important. We have a Pepup Tech student here in the front row. It's important for them to be able to come to events like this, or go to TDX or Dreamforce, because that's where they're gonna find their ohana, and that's where they're gonna build their next level. So in closing, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about where we are with Pepup Tech. To date, we've trained over 1,000 students. 51% of the students are women. It's a population we heavily target. Our very first class, we had, I think it was like 97% men. Like, we had a hard time recruiting women when we first started this program, and we had to change our messaging to get women to join the program, and it wasn't easy to do. But we're happy that we're at 51% now. 70% are underrepresented minorities. In the US, less than 3% of people who are in the Salesforce or in the tech industry in general are people of color, and we're talking about Black or Hispanic or people that are traditionally underrepresented in tech. Our average starting salaries for students coming into our program and them leaving, they're at 6 times what they were earning before. Our average incoming salary is $11,500 US. Leaving out of our program, they're at $68,000 on average, with many students earning over $100,000 a year. 300 underserved children, primary and secondary school children, are enrolled in our STEAM programs in the United States as well. We also use this program to spearhead a program to help young children start learning about tech earlier, right? One of the reasons why we don't have that participation in tech is because a lot of us don't learn about it until we're in college. Like, at that point, the ship is done sailed for many people, right? We want our kids who are 5 and 6 and 7 years old understanding and opting into tech at a very early age. And so now we're looking at, with the help of Stephanie Herrera, who I'm going to introduce next, we're looking at scaling our program to launch internationally so that you guys in Paris or anywhere else in Europe and other places in the world can replicate what we did in the United States. So we want to share what we've done so that you guys can participate in some of the success that we've seen. So now I'm going to introduce Stephanie Herrera, who she's the very first person that I asked to join this movement with me when I first had the idea for Pepup Tech. I originally started, building the elements for Pepup Tech with a completely different group of people, and when all of that fell apart, I went to Stephanie and I said, I need somebody who believes in this like I believe in it, who can help us to get this off the ground. And she immediately said yes, was the first person that came on board. And then the second person that came on board was Rebe, who Stephanie will introduce. So thank you guys so much for giving me a couple minutes to share my story, and I hope it's been inspirational and it encourages you to give back.
All right, let me get my notes up here. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Herrera, as Selena said. Can we give her another round of applause? That was amazing. Amazing. I am the co-founder of Pepup Tech, also founder of Salesforce Saturdays, and I am currently the Global VP at Computer Futures. And so I am going to tell you a little about me and why you understand why Salesforce community and giving back are so important to me. I am the oldest of 4. We were very poor. We rarely received gifts or birthday presents. All of my grandparents, none of them made it past the 3rd grade in education levels. They got pulled out to either go to work in the fields. So, I came from a very, very poor background. We changed schools twice a year because of this. So we were always skipping out on rent, and we would sneak out during the night, and I never got to tell my friends goodbye. I was married and I'm pregnant at 16. And then my first job after high school was working in the cotton fields with my grandparents from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I had no car. I had to bum rides to work. Then I was unmarried and pregnant again at 22. I did marry each of their fathers at the time, but then after that I decided marriage is just not for me. I don't need a 3rd ex-husband. I'm staying single for the rest of my life. So, but you know what you're good at when you're not. So I tried to go to college for a semester, but not having a car or money made it hard, so I had to focus on work, which I struggled as a single mom of 2. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and oftentimes not even that. At the age of 36, I had to borrow $100 just to pay for my son's school supplies and school clothes. Every year when back to school would start up and I'd see the ads for back to school, I would get serious PTSD because I had no idea how I was going to find the money to pay for their school supplies. And that was something that I dealt with as a kid, not having new shoes, not having new clothes, and I didn't want that for my children, but I had found myself in that position. And then at the age of 38, I was making $42,000 a year at Apple. I mean, I've been in tech for 21 years. Prior to that, I'd worked at Dell for almost 9 years. As a result of that, I had to work 2 jobs, 7 days a week for a year and a half just to make ends meet. Even though I worked in tech and I worked at Dell and I worked at Apple, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I contributed, I was never paid the amount of money that I was worth. So, how did I change that? Now, also, not to bum y'all out, I mean, obviously I'm here in Paris, so something happened and I've got it figured out. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit of like how I went from that to this. I've been in Salesforce 7 years. Probably it was 2 years into the Salesforce ecosystem when I finally got my head above water and I didn't have to worry about, if my credit card was gonna get declined when I was paying for groceries. A year into the ecosystem, I was finally able to quit that second job and only focus on one job at a time. But the way I got here and the way I ended up in Paris was that people helped me along the way. And that was through my childhood and through my as an adult. And I was also always very appreciative of the people that helped me and my family. For example, the church that gave us gifts and the Salvation Army that gave us gifts for Christmas or brought us food for Thanksgiving, or the people that gave me rides to work. They were my friends. They were my coworkers. The person that loaned me $100 for my son's school supplies. All of these people helped me. And in my professional career, I had people that gave me career advice. Again, remember, I didn't go to college, so I didn't have that education. I lived in a rural area. We didn't have public transportation. There wasn't a subway or a train I could jump on and get to the city. So all of these people helped me, and this is one of my favorite quotes, "Be the helper." It's from Mr. Rogers. It says, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.' To this day, especially in the times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I'm always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world." And that's how I ended up here in Paris, France, freaking Paris, France. I still just can't believe that. It was because of the help of helpers. And I want to be one of those helpers. Those people helped me. They got me here, and the total strangers, they didn't have to help me. But before I could be a helper, I had to first help myself. And this is one of my favorite quotes. "The best way to predict the future is to create it." So, at the end of 2011, when I was at Apple, and doing the medical billing in the evenings, I updated my resume and applied for 3 different Salesforce jobs. And I took the one that was paying the most, obviously, which was a 50% pay increase over Apple. Again, remember, I was only making $42,000, so that was not very impressive at the time. And started working the Salesforce ecosystem full time. And that was the last time I went looking for a job, at the end of 2011. Every job since then, they've come to me. I've not had to go interview, go look for it. They've come to me, and that's all because of the Salesforce ecosystem. I'm no different than I was then. I still worked hard. I was a contributor. I always add value. I'm an overachiever. Even in grade school, when there were bonus questions, if I didn't get every bonus question, I was arguing with the teacher and making her understand my logic and why I should get the bonus points. So still the same person. But I'd found the Salesforce ecosystem, and I was finally in a world where they actually paid me for my worth. They paid me for the work that I contributed. So that was the biggest difference. And then I started going to the user groups. I started connecting within the Salesforce ecosystem, finding people. I forced myself out of my comfort zone. I would ask questions. I'd say, "Hi, my name is Stephanie. This is why I'm here. Why are you here?" I would learn from them. And at that time, it was really great. This was, again, back 2012, 2013. But I needed more. There were still some things missing, so I wanted to create what I was looking for. And I started with Girly Geeks. I started the very first Women in Tech chapter in January of 2014. I was constantly getting reached out to by recruiters for jobs, and obviously I can't work them all, so I wanted to share the job opportunities with them. And we would give each other negotiation tips. We would help each other with interviews. We would help each other on how to deal with being a woman in tech. So that was my first foray into creating the network that I wanted to have to support me. And I led that group for 5 years. This is the first year that I'm no longer leading it. And then after that was Salesforce Saturday in 2015. And these are some of the pictures of some of my mini groups throughout the globe. And I think we have some people here. Can I hear some shout outs from our Salesforce Saturday community that are here? I know Netherlands and Ukraine, I definitely saw here. Yep, there they are. Very excited to have them here with us. But basically, Salesforce Saturday is where we spend Saturdays learning all things Salesforce for our own personal growth on Saturdays. We work at our own pace, whatever helps you earn Trailhead badges, get certified, learn code, or develop your career. and essentially earn more money. After that, I got involved with Mare Veterans Foundation. I started off as a volunteer in 2015, and then I became a board member in 2017. And Mare basically helps people learn Salesforce, get access to our networks, and get jobs. And then at the end of 2016 was Pepup Tech, when Selena reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to help her with this. At the time, I was doing a lot, within Salesforce Saturday and Marevis and Women in Tech. But for me, what was really hard is I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. And I started to feel guilty. I felt like I had a responsibility to actually help people who looked more like me get into tech. Everybody says that there's a pipeline problem. There's not really a pipeline problem. Just people that come from diversity think that we're not wanted in this industry. We think there's not a space for us in technology. So when she asked me, at first I was like, I've got so much going on, but I knew that if I was gonna do it, why not do it with someone like Selena? As you all can see, she's a force of nature. She makes things happen. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna see if we can't make tech a little more brown. And this is, our first event we took our students to was Midwest Dreaming, an event just like this. It was in 2017, and as you can tell, we had a blast. And then we also did the Pepup Tech Summer Explorers program. Now, when Selena wanted to do this, I thought she was crazy. I was like, there is no way we can do this. But they are adorable, and I'm so glad she did this. One thing that's really great about Selena is she knows how to bring the right people together and get things done. So those are our students at the Bronx Center when we went to go visit. And so what do all of these things have in common? They're all groups where people come together to help each other. We all help each other learn Salesforce, get access to our networks, and get jobs. When you help someone skill up, level up, and get a job, you're changing their family trees. You're helping them help themselves, and their families and you are helping yourself first and foremost. And you won't see it at the time, but when you look back, you will see it. So I know everybody's seen Schindler's List. This is a movie that still gets me emotional, and it's because this quote here, "Whosoever saves one life saves the world entire." You just never know who you're going to help and what they're going to do to make the world a better place. Now, about me continued. So, since then, I've become a Salesforce MVP 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Again, thank you. This is what giving back has done for me. I was an Austin 40 Under 40 finalist for Mentor of the Year in 2016. Selena, myself, and Rebe got the Salesforce Trailblazer Equality Award from Parker Harris. I was a 2017 keynote speaker with Mark Benioff, 2017 keynote speaker on New York City World Tour with Parker Harris. On Trailblazer Day of 2019, I was a special guest of Mark Benioff and Ivanka Trump. And this year, I was invited to the White House. I kept expecting them to kick me out and tell me I wasn't allowed in there, but that never happened. Also received the National Latino Leadership Award in 2019, and now I am a Global Vice President for Computer Futures. Thank you. And again, this is what giving back has done for me, because I didn't get here by myself. It was on the shoulders of everybody in the communities. We skilled each other up and we leveled each other up. And here recently, this was back in August, this was shared by one of my sheroes, Christina Jones, who you can see here. She represents what she calls action leadership, and she inspires us to be action leaders anytime that we can. And when I initially saw this post on Instagram, when she posted it, I read it, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, in a very powerful way, because it was then that I finally realized that, you know what, I'm going to be okay. I did make it. And when we all give back together, we all make it. And that's why it's so important to give back. The end. Okay. So now it is my honor to introduce Rebe de la Paz. She is brilliant. If you see her here, make sure you take 5 minutes to talk to her. She's got an amazing mind, remembers and knows everything, and she's really, really funny. Rebe, let's give it up for Rebe.
Let me see. Sorry, I'm a diva. I need clicker. Yeah, I got the power. Je m'appelle Evie de la Paz. Je parle français, mais je parle français très mal. D'accord? Oh, d'accord. Can I get a mic? Or is this thing on? It's not. Oh, there we go. Ha ha ha. Now I can sing. So I am a visual person, right? So being here in Paris was the dream of a lifetime, right? Because it's a city of artists, city of, history, liberté, freedom, revolution, right? And, being here and coming from where I come from is just, something I never thought would happen, right? A little bit by myself, I'm co-founder of Pepup Tech. I'm also a solution architect, right? I just recently started calling myself that because I saw other people calling themselves architects and I knew way more than them. So I was like, I know platform, do you? So it's like, well, I'm a solution architect too, or you went to Google, I can go to Google the best of them. So I'm a developer too. So one of the things, I start my story with 2012, right? That's when I first got into Salesforce. And people always ask me these questions. They're like, when it comes to Pepup Tech, how? Everybody wants to know the secret sauce, right? And then why? And so for me, the when was very interesting. It's very pinnacle for me because 2016 was a big year. I turned 40 in 2016. Yes, I know. I'm so young. And that was the year where I was just like, I'm going to do something different for the year of turning 40, right? So I volunteered for the very first time via Salesforce Communities. We have something in Chicago called Chicago Cares Day. It was on June 26, 2016. We were trying to get the community to do something. For those of you who are user group leaders, you know the struggle. We got 5 of us total showed up. And we had the lovely project of painting an entire, very large classroom that had not been painted in it felt 10 years, right? I asked, what do I use to clean the walls? He said, here's a garbage can, here's some brown paper, towel, use water. Clean the walls, paint the class in 90-degree weather with no AC. So it was a good time, it was bonding. That's Kelly Walker, she's on the lightning team for those of you who know her. At that time, she was a Desk.com member, and me and Kelly bonded and became very good friends. And I've been with her throughout her Salesforce career. Since that day. That one day, I spent 7 hours. That was it. And it was life-changing because when these students came back to school, they would have a brand new classroom, a different color. And you have to think about it. The school had not been painted in over a decade. And so they would sit there in this environment and have to learn. So can you imagine something so fun as learning and you're in a dusty room that you probably shouldn't be breathing in, right? Following that, I wanted to do more. I was like, I need more volunteer service, right? So I volunteered for another day, just one day. So this was literally over a 2-month period. I only volunteered 1 day per month. And the second day was Girl Develop It with Mare Scotton. And one of the students in that class, it costs money to take that class, $60. I really spent time with her, but I had not known her story until 2 months later, where she said, it was my last $60 for the month to survive. And I spent it, and it has changed my life, and you have changed my life, because you really made me feel like I can do something. And if I had known it was her last $60, I would have given it to her because I wanted her to be successful. And she was not the only one who had reached out to me. I had 5 other women reach out to me after that one day. So I had impacted 5 lives in less than 8 hours, right? And I was like, man, I am Superwoman. I am ruling the world and impacting lives one day at a time, right? And it felt so good. It was selfish of me because I felt really good about what I did, even though all I did was go and help them with Salesforce and say really nice things. And I was like, wow, I should have started saying nice things to people a long time ago. So 2016, all these feelings, I'd had a thought about writing a reflection piece about how I felt about the world. And, having been a scientist, I'd studied pre-med. I have a double major in bio. I spent a good 3 years working and studying biology, and I worked in a research laboratory. So I'm a very objective mind, right? I went to Dreamforce in 2015 for the very first time on somebody else's dime. I didn't have to pay for it. I begged for years. Finally, somebody paid for me to go to Dreamforce, which was my job at the time. And I wrote about how when I went to Dreamforce, it was amazing. But being a woman of color who comes from the south side of Chicago, I noticed something, and it's the scientist in me. I'm always observing the world, right? Many of the people who look like me were holding doors. They were not inside the doors, sitting in chairs. I began to count the chairs. There were about 350 chairs in the room, and out of that 350 chairs, there were 15 people of color seated in a chair. And out of that 15 people of color, I want to say maybe a good 5 of them were African American descent. And out of that 5, maybe 2 were women. And I was like, man, I'm very analytical. Those numbers are rough. It's not right. And San Francisco is a gorgeous city, and Dreamforce could cost about $10,000 for someone to go, right? And these people holding doors are probably getting half of that for the time that they're spending holding the doors, working 12-hour shifts. So I wrote a blog post about it that was urged by Shauna Hughes, and she was like, you're going to write this because you've been talking about it for 6 months. I wrote it, and apparently somebody named Mark Benioff read it too because I got a seat at the table. And one thing I will say about Mark Benioff, he's very strategic, right? He gave me a seat at the head of the table. And that was very impactful because I saw the president of my company sitting at the end of the table. And it was fabulous. I winked at him. I was like, hey, how you doing? And that's my timer. Man, I can't believe time went by that fast. All right, so, okay, shut up, phone. I asked Mark, I said, let's take a cool pic. Because I was like, I'm not a conventional person. So me and Mark took a cool pic, and other people started to try to replicate, because that's what people do. But I did it first. I also argued with Mark about lightning, because I was like, lightning sucks. And he apologized. And everybody at the table was like, why is the lowest title at the table arguing with Mark Benioff? And I told him I didn't want to talk about lightning, just leave it out of his keynote. But he didn't want to listen. And so we started arguing about how lightning sucked. 2016, I met Selena Suarez at Dreamforce. That's the stairs. That's Toya Gatewood. And the reason why I had that picture of her, and I had another picture, is because that was the first time I saw Black people represented at Salesforce in their marketing. That was the first time they chose people from the community and put pictures of them and had them represented. And it was big because that showed people that you don't have to be one color in this country to make it. You can do it too, right? And following that, this picture is really important to me. It makes me cry sometimes. That's my drive to work downtown, Chicago. And that highway was built many years ago to separate Black people and white people in Chicago. And I was driving through there, and my neighborhood happens to be on the Black side, right? It's no longer like that, but that's where I grew up. And Selena called me, and we talked about her idea. And right at this junction, where I see this world that I came from, and the history and everything, and I said, I'm in. You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to say anything else. I'm in on this. And I still get chills to this day because I knew Pepup Tech would be something very big. I was going to do my best to make it very big. And that was that moment. And it doesn't look cold, it looks sunny, but it's Chicago. It was like negative 10 degrees, right? But that was that day. I was like, this is the moment. This is what I've been working for, thinking about. So how? Sacrifices. Who knows about Lent? Anybody? It's a Catholic tradition. You give things up, right? So you give up chocolate, bread, meat, wine, cheese, sweets. These are the things you give up for Pepup Tech, right? Give up TV, clubs, sleep, rational thought, right? You may give up your firstborn child, maybe all other children, they can go too, and significant others, like, I starting to think like the separate bedrooms is coming back, right? Because I don't want to go to bed when you go to bed. Tough decisions. These are the original sketchings of our logo. I sketched it at my kitchen table. I'm not a very good artist, I'm sorry. I like stick figures. But I want you to notice, I had people pulling people up any way they could. There was a barrel. I was just like, reach out and help people, right? It's not about, oh, we're doing this for other black people. It's people helping people, people empowering people. These were all the bad ones that we didn't pick. These were tough decisions. Selena said these were little ants on the bottom. But we ended up with our logo, and that's when we started to raise money, right? So our logo on the corner, this was our first fundraiser. No, we begged people to come. We're like, please come, please. Our family, our friends, nobody really came. Nobody cared about Pepup Tech at the time, but we cared. That was all that mattered. We were gonna make this the best. And then boot camps, that's where we started. That's the how. We just were like, we're gonna do boot camps. Nobody paid me to do them. We just reached out to the community. And then we evolved into virtual classes. I don't know if you guys know this MVP, Justin Edelstein. He has bedhead, and he likes this weird drink called mate. But we have all sorts of people, Shauna, Steph, Guillermo. A lot of MVPs came out to help us, right? We didn't just do this alone. It was the community. And so here's the why. When I reflect on my life career connections, at once upon a time, I was pre-med. I was going to be a doctor, right? I became a mom. After that, I was like, I'm going to be an English professor, and then had a Salesforce career. But all around is helping people, right? And that's always been something, a part of my heart, was helping people. It's something very simple. And when I drew the logo, it was because oftentimes we ask ourselves, how do I do something? When the simplest thing is to just step out, reach your hand out, and grasp somebody's hand. It is very simple to help someone. You just have to have the courage to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, right? And it's interesting because who here has watched the Salesforce Keynote? Or I keep hearing about this fourth industrial revolution for the past 5 years. And he's like, yes, sort of. But the one thing I have to say, we're all moving forward, right? And part of Pepup Tech is movement, pep. Pep in English is a very invigorating energy, right? Where you have the animation and the life, joie de vivre, right? You want to live, you want energy. And that's that positive motion that comes with Pepup Tech, with the fourth industrial revolution, because we're all connected with the internet, right? And so as my final, I walk through Paris. I'm an unconventional woman. I don't know if you've realized that. I'm an unconventional tourist. So for the past 3 days, I really like to walk the streets of Paris, right? So I stayed in Gare de Lyon, Bastille, and I went to Sacré-Cœur, but I walked from Sacré-Cœur all the way to Bastille. And I saw a side of Paris that I did not see in the tourist areas, but it's ça même. It reminds me of home, because there are those same issues that exist, right? I saw a lot of people of color and all of the elements in some of the streets that I did not see in tourist Paris. The same way as when you're in Chicago, seldom do people go to the South Side or West Side because they hear about shootings. But it's still a place where people live and have to live, right? So the thing about it for me was Paris, and I've talked with Jean-Michel about this, is it's uncomfortable to reach out to people that you don't have any type of connection with to try to help, right? But ignorance is darkness. To learn, to live is light. When you reach out to someone who's in the dark and you show them that there is light, that opens their eyes. And that's what we do with Pepup Tech, is we bring light to many lives that have some darkness. And I see the same for Paris. It is a city of lights. Why do we not bring that light to those places that need that light? And so the fourth industrial revolution is here. We're all connected. Bring that light to those areas of darkness. Help others. And so for me, that is my end of my story with Pepup Tech. My motivation and my energy for, helping others. I hope I inspired you to think about that. Like, what can you do with what you know to help someone else? And remember, in the beginning, it took me 1 day and 1 month. And then I spent another month, and I just did 1 day. And that's where I felt that need. And so that's my end is, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Go out and spread the light of Salesforce. Ooh, it sounds so churchy. The end. Thank you. I see questions. I don't know. Are we doing
absolutely.
Q&A?
So, does anybody want to take the Rob? Please stand up.
It's not just me. I'm going to walk around.
Now we've got a rap battle going on. We've got mics. I'm kidding. You'll win. You always win.
Microphone check. Microphone checker. No, go ahead.
So earlier in the presentation, you alluded to Stephanie taking efforts to move this into an international space. Where do I sign up? Where can I apply my privilege to the right place?
Oh, I got you on the list. Don't worry, Rob. Don't worry. Don't worry. That is coming very, very soon. That's one reason that we're here. Selena and I are going to Amsterdam to get that ball rolling on Sunday and next week. So definitely get ready. It's coming. And be thinking about your communities. For us, it was people of color, but every community is different. Pepup Tech is to help the underrepresented communities in your community. So be thinking about those people who are proactive, who are hard workers, but just can't catch a break. Who can you help through Pepup Tech? And there's also other programs here. But just volunteer, like Ruby says. It just starts with an hour or a day. But it is coming, so be ready. It's coming.
Another question, maybe? Come on, guys. I'm sure you can ask in French if needed. I will translate that. I'll try my best. Nobody? Yeah? Rob, once again. Yeah, go for it.
So I posted this one on Twitter to Reeve, but she's been so busy this week that she can't get near it. She's too busy walking across Paris. This may be a technical inaccuracy, but on your pinned tweet, you talk about like the 4 founders. On the Salesforce blog post about Pepup Tech, they talk about 5. Who've we got on the list?
Oh, Shauna's not here. Shauna Hughes is our other founder.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, and didn't I tell y'all she was funny? Let's give it up one more time for Reeve. She's hilarious.
So yeah, Shauna
Yes.
was supposed to be here, and unfortunately had other things to do because she don't like Paris. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me? So if you want to reach out and help people, but there are things that hold you back, like the things that make you uncomfortable, like feeling condescending or not being able to relate to someone's position, like thinking that and then worrying that people who are not like you always get other people who think that they know, but they don't know. how do you start those conversations? Any tips for that?
For me, I like to go to eat because food is like the language of everybody, right? And it's interesting because Salesforce communities, user groups, has taught me that even the person that you think is going to be one way is not when you actually sit down and have a meal with them, right? It is just like so interesting because like we all came from communities too, right? And user groups. And I don't know, like my network has been built through French Touch Dreamin type events, like Midwest Dreamin, and user group, Salesforce Saturdays. It's just a matter of, like I said, you have to get over that hurdle inside of feeling uncomfortable, right? Because you're never going to live. If I listened to my mom, I would not be in Paris. She was just like, don't go. Because my mom never wants to leave the Midwest, right? So I'm the type of person that always asks why. And I have hard conversations with people all the time. There are a lot of Trump supporters that are friends of mine in the user groups. I'm not a Trump supporter, right? But our politics are over there, and we have really great conversations and respect each other, right? So it's as simple as that. Like, I'd say start with a meal and have a drink, and that will, like, help things along.
I also think it is just a closing note. It's honesty and respect, right? Just be honest with people. If you don't know something, don't assume something about someone. Just ask them, right? Like sometimes it is a dinner or even better, a glass of wine, right? People loosen up and you just ask them about their experience and be respectful of it, right? And just go into it knowing you don't know everything because you probably don't, right?
I want Stephanie to say what you say at the Salesforce Saturday, what you start with. What is the sentence you start with when someone comes to Salesforce Saturday? Because I think that sums up a lot of things.
I don't know what you're talking about
specifically. You say why you're here, and you ask why they are here.
Yes. So I always introduce myself and say why I'm here and what I look to get out of it, and I also ask them what they're looking to get out of it. Because at the end of the day, you can't just take; you got to give back too. That's the whole theme of these communities, the user groups. They're providing a service for us, and I'm just a big believer. If you're going to take, you need to give back. And just remember, we've all been in that position. I have to check my bias. Just the other day, I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "My CEO is going to be there. We'll talk." And I was like, "Well, what's his name?" And he said, "Her name is," and I was like, "Oh, I did that." And so don't feel uncomfortable that you're going to say the wrong thing. We all say the wrong thing. As long as you're trying, that's what matters. And as long as you're warm and welcoming, that's the spirit of all this, just to be welcoming, because you don't know what people are going through. You always have to operate that somebody's dealing with something that, even though they have a smile, I mean, when I was going through all of that, people didn't know. They had no idea what I was dealing with and what I was struggling with because I was ashamed. I didn't want them to know. So just know a kind word goes a long way, and it's absolutely free. Have a conversation. Conversation's so important, and you're going to find out you have a lot more in common with people than you think, but you'll never know until you start the conversation. And if somebody gets upset, they get upset. We're all adults. We're not going to all be besties. We're all going to be different, but you at least try. It starts with having a conversation. And if you're in a good place, I hear people that like, they get uncomfortable with their privilege. You know, I grew up with no privilege, and for most of my adult life, I did not have privilege. But thanks to this community, they've given me access, and now I have a lot of privilege. So I am actually happy with my privilege. I work every day to share my privilege. And when you share your privilege, you're going to feel good about what you have and what you've accomplished. There's no greater feeling than sharing privilege. So do that. Just open your mouth and start having a conversation.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, you want to add something? Yeah, please, go on.
The other thing that I think is very important, and it's very simple, is to make it known. Let people know that you're that person that wants to give back, that wants to help, because let me tell you, when you help that one person, you will have a line of people, texting you and emailing you and sending you messages on LinkedIn, which I'm sure happens to all of us. So make it known, and be that warm person that people feel comfortable coming to at these events, in general, social media. But I think just make it known so that people are aware that you are that helping person.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. So I ran to the front to grab the microphone. Can I just cheekily add in, there is Pepup Tech. They will be there to support you, but there is also a great support network throughout Salesforce. It's the Trailblazer community groups and the Salesforce Saturday groups. So trailblazercommunitygroups.com. You might find that you've got a local group if you're not already a member. They meet monthly or every 2 months or every 3 months. There's also Salesforce Saturdays. There's a website listing all those Salesforce Saturdays. And there's people out there that have been inspired. And I didn't even realize I was inspired by you because you inspired Sergey, and then Sergey inspired me. So the impact that you have then on I think there's a half a dozen people here from the Netherlands because of the impact that that's had. So thank you very much, everyone. The transformation effect you've had on my life is amazing, and I am dearly, dearly grateful. And I and many others here, I think, have already passed that one on and pay it forwards to other people in their turn.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
So, just one last word. I know that Pepup Tech is overseas. You may one day or the other do other things. As Paul said, Salesforce Saturday could be started anywhere. There is also French organizations that are using this same kind of thing through many government programs on which you can participate. The goal of that is not much more like, oh, you can join Pepup Tech, and I know that this is not your goal, but it's much more like an example thing that you can do to make a difference, and everybody can start that, even if it's just a Salesforce Saturday, just 1 hour every week, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 2 months. It doesn't matter. At least you change one life, and that's the goal of that. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for your talk. I definitely want you to have a round of applause for the Pepup Tech girls. Thank you. Thank you. So
Where's
it's
the
going to be
champagne?
closing. Yep. Please. Yep. Cool. So it's going to be the closing keynote. We have very few information, no worries. And just after that, we have very few giveaways, at least or so to give away. Just swapping screen. So very few information. Yeah, I should talk there. No, maybe not. So very few information that we still have to give you. So that's wrap up the day, as you understood. First of all, once again, we will be nothing without the sponsors. Definitely, I know that a lot of you have been there and take advantage about knowing them, and I know that's also a good opportunity for you to learn more. And thanks to all the sponsors. From the smallest to the biggest, it's really, really, really important because you have no idea about the cost of this kind of day, and they cover it. So they make the magic that permits to create that. We just give time. We don't give money. They give the money, and that's as something like that. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about prices. We have a few prices, so I hope the people on the picture are going to be there because we had a little contest. So there were a Shrimpix contest with a photo booth. So the girl here, I don't know if she's still in the room. Is he? Okay, you won the camera, so come on stage. she said that, oh, I'm a sham. Everybody look at me like that and doing things like that. It's a fan. You want me to zoom in? Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Super. Thank you. So I hope you find that fun. So now we're gonna open the raffle. So the raffle, you've always been having a lot of stuff around. I don't know where. Oh, here it is. So I need a Pepup Tech to help me. Gina, can you come? So you will have to pick one and give the number. So it's not me doing it. So first. We're going to start with a Cody mug, which is cool. Okay? It's going to ramp up. So for a Cody mug, can you give the number that you have?
So it's 125038.
So do we have the 038 here? 038? Yes. So that's cool. You can go for another one. You put the rear side. So I need another one, which is another mug. Thank you. You're welcome. And that's for a cloudy mug.
All right. 125046.
046. Do we have 046? No? Yes. So that's a cloudy mug. Cool. Okay. And we're gonna go now for this battery, which is a little, not so little battery.
Okay, 051. So it's 125051.
051. Do we have there? Yeah. So cool. So that's an extra battery. You will like it. And before we go for the rest, I just want Texay to give away because they were doing also a contest during the day, so they have free things to give to people.
So the winners are Cedric Zwolensky, Saif Romdan, and Youssef El Kandili.
Yeah, cool. And get ready because we're gonna go now. We're gonna go now for a hoodie. A hoodie. I'm sorry, it's large. So your luck. Oh, we have large and we have one which is large. So you're gonna have the choice between large and large. So for the large hoodie.
125067. 067.
067? Yeah. Sorry, it's large. You can switch maybe. And for a super battery that can charge your MacBook Pro. And of course, 7 iPhone, 2 iPads, etc.
I want this. All right, 125070.
070? 070? Okay. Okay, go for another one.
029. 125029. It's mine.
Okay, one more time.
If not, it's mine.
She really wanted it.
125056.
056? Do we have someone? 056?
056.
Okay, let's go for another one.
Okay.
People left.
They left. 125004.
No? No 004?
Just give it to me.
Let's go with more.
Oh, that one's broken. Okay, 002. Finally.
Yeah. And we're gonna speed up with another one because I got another battery to give away. You're very welcome. So we're gonna have one more battery.
I don't think the Pepup Tech people got tickets.
Because you haven't been to the booth. You should have.
Oh, darn it. Okay. 125041. 041.
Okay, one more. Oh, we got it. 041. Cool. So, one last hoodie, and then it's going to be certification voucher. So I know that you guys want certification.
All right. 081. 125081.
Yes, cool. And that's a Trailblazer hoodie for you. And no, we're not done. We are not done. We have the 4 last certification voucher to give away.
Okay. And the award goes to 125011.
011. So, ooh, that's cool. I say that's cool because I know that she's gonna take advantage of that, and she's been speaker. So thanks to all the speakers that we had, it's really helping. Doria, thank you. So 3 more.
125020.
020. Yes. Here you are. So be careful. They are only available until June 2020.
125059.
059. Yes. No way. He already won one. So you have to do the work now. You have multiple chance to get it. So.
And the last one, 125053. 053.
053. Do I have a 053? So next.
025.
Yes. And that's it. Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot, Gina. Thank you. And this is your venture. You're very welcome. So, we are almost done. There is one thing that we used to try to put lights on things that are very good and very nice. So we decided this year, because we had this opportunity to have a speaker that is explaining during a session what she do to do feedback. So I want Vicky to come on stage to talk just like 2 minutes about supermoms, because I think it's super important. And so please just give us just very few words about who is Supermom, who you are, and what you're doing. I know you have done a session in something like 30 minutes, so just like sum up in 30 seconds who you are and what we can do to be part of that.
Absolutely. So, hi everybody, can you hear me? Yeah? No? Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, how's this? Hi everybody, I'm head of training with Salesforce Supermoms, and we are a workforce development program who is all about getting women back into the workplace. So we work with moms who are looking for flexibility, who are looking to change careers to find something that is well paid and fits their family lifestyle. So we provide training, we work with volunteers, with sponsors, with consultancy partners, and we have a recruitment arm as well. So if you're thinking about getting involved, come check us out at our website, and we would be happy to hear from all of you.
You look very UK, but in fact you have an antenna in France because you speak French pretty well.
Yes, I do. Actually, I live in France, and I work remotely with Supermoms in the UK. So it's being a virtual program, we can have people and be empowering these moms everywhere in the world. So that's where my goal is to bring the Super Mums program into France and into the rest of the of Europe in general. And we're expanding around the world as well. So we're planning on going to the US around Dreamforce of this year, and then we're launching in Australia and New Zealand at the beginning of next. So
That's wonderful. And I think that you already got a partner, and I'm saying that not to push this partner in light. Even if I find that it's really good, it's App Synergy that is already giving some time and opportunity to mums through your program to find new jobs. Can you tell a few words about that so maybe others can join?
Unfortunately, Raphael had to leave already today, so I can't pull him up on stage with me. But as part of our program, each of our mums works on a work experience project. And it ties into the give back very well because it's all about giving pro bono hours to a nonprofit to help them do more with their budget. So we work with consultancy partners, and then the trainees, they get back some, they get to have something to put on their CV, they get something to help them get back into the workforce as well. So we're working with App Synergy in France to launch into the French market and to get French mums involved as well.
So we find that at the French Touch Dreamin so nice, and so we decided all together with the team to come with a little gift. So we'll be participating to the launch of Supermum in France by giving away 2,500 euros. And you know what? We don't do it. We don't do it. You all have done that because you being there, you're part of that.